what we're going to do today is the first step in a series of videos where I'm actually going to take this bow. I just got this. This is actually one of the new Halon 32s from Matthews. And the bow doesn't matter, it's the process. So what we're going to do is the very first step in setting up a bow from very beginning, never have shot a bow before maybe, all the way up to being ready to bow hunt. And some of this might be review for you guys if you've set up a lot of your bows in the past. Some of it might be something you've never heard of, but you got to go through each step, and each step is important. And I want to start with a disclaimer here. I'm not a certified bow tech. I'm not any kind of bow tech except a redneck bow tech that just happens to do my own work. I live in southern Michigan. I'm a good 45 minutes away from any bow shop that's reputable, and I've never, to my recollection, ever taken my bow in to have someone work on it. It just wasn't something that for a long time I was able to even afford to do, to be honest with you. And the other thing is it just wasn't convenient. So through trial and error, I'm pretty much self-taught. So there's probably going to be some steps that I do that are not what your bow tech would do, or different from the way a real professional bow tech would do them. But that's okay because it's my way. So I'm not trying to say that my way is the only way or even the best way. But the first step we have to do to get from having a bow in our hand that's already set up to shoot is we got to figure out what bow fits us, because that is super important. And I have a few of my own theories along the way about that too. So this is a pretty easy project. We're only going to need a couple of tools. A pencil, tape measure, a wall with a corner or a door opening is really helpful. 2 hands, your own hands, and a calculator, which I'm just going to use my cell phone. Measuring your draw length is super important. Back before I was in the outdoor industry, I could not afford to buy new bows, and even to this day I don't like to buy a new bow. I get a lot of bows sent my way because of the work that I'm in, but you know, I know that's a perk of the job that not everybody has. And to be 100% honest, I probably would never buy a new bow. The bows of these nowadays are so good that the used bow market has a lot of really nice options on it. And if I was going to buy a bow for myself, I probably would end up opting for a used bow. That's where fit is really important. You have to know your draw length, and we're going to get into a little bit more about knowing your best bow hunting draw length here in a second. But how do you figure out your draw length? Well, I don't have anybody here to help me, so I'm going to show you how you can do it all by yourself. Okay, so the very first step is get yourself a wall. This particular wall has a corner. I could also do it against a doorstop. I could even do it against one of the cracks in the wall. What you just need is you need a starting point that you don't have to mark or hold on to. What I mean is we've only got 2 hands. We're going to spread our arms out. We got to keep one hand in place to measure from. So when I stick this hand in this corner and I come out here, I'm going middle finger to middle finger, and I'm not overreaching. I'm just nice and relaxed, flat against the wall. And where this finger meets, I'm going to come up here, and with my pencil, I'm going to make a slight mark. Now obviously, don't write on the wall with permanent marker. Don't even write it on a pencil if it's going to get you in trouble. But out here in my office, it's no big deal. So the next step, we're just going to measure. Okay, now the next step, pretty simple. We're just going to take the tape measure and measure. Now remember, we used a corner. That's so that that spot doesn't move. So that I'm able to put the tape measure, the end of the tape measure, right against the corner where my left hand was, and I'm going to measure over where to the mark that I made where my right hand was. Come on over here, and we come up with 74 3/4 of an inch. So it's 74.75. We're going to take that number on the calculator and divide it by 2.5. Okay, 74.75 divided by 2.5 gives me 29.9 inches. So, I'm sure you guys all took basic elementary math, and you understand the concept of rounding up or down. According to the formula, my draw length should be 29.9 inches. Obviously there's no bow with a 29.9 inch draw, so I would shoot a 30-inch bow according to the calculation. Now this is where my personal theories start to come in. I'm not going to shoot a 30-inch draw length bow. A lot of guys get caught up in wanting to shoot the longest draw length that they can, and the reason for that is the longer your draw length, the faster the bow can drive the arrow. It's basic physics. The arrow's in contact with the string longer, you have more of a power stroke, it's going to throw that arrow down range longer. I don't care all that much about speed so much as I care about making sure I can hit where I'm aiming, making sure that I'm able to repeat everything consistently, and most importantly, making sure it's going to work for me in a tree stand. I'm wearing this coat for a reason. It is cold out today, but I'm in a nice heated office, and I wore this coat because I wanted to show you something. So I'm going to grab my release and I'm going to draw the bow. So here's why I'm not going to shoot a 30-inch long draw. As I mentioned, I'm wearing this coat. This isn't even that bulky of a coat. It's pretty similar to something that I would wear in late October and into early November before it gets really super cold. But as I draw, okay, I'm back at full draw. When I come forward, we'll see if you can hear it, if I can do it slow enough. Right there, it wants to contact that sleeve. Okay? Now obviously I was bending my arm a little bit, trying to let down easy, and I can't really replicate, just releasing the arrow. But that's what I worry about when I'm all the way out here, fully locked, and if I was going to come back another inch, I'd have to lock my arm in, and I'm going to hit my bow sleeve, or my sleeve with the bowstring. This is a 29-inch bow. This is what I hunt with now. So even though the number said I wanted a 30-inch draw length, that might be fine for target shooting. It might be fine for warm weather where I'm able to control everything about my stance, everything about the angle that I'm shooting at. In a target situation, sure, a 30-inch draw probably is okay, but I'm not a target shooter. I'm a bow hunter. So I need to have a little bit of bow in my bow arm, because even though proper shooting form is to rotate your forearm out, get right down into that lifeline of your hand. I do shoot that way because I've shot enough over enough time, but that doesn't mean in the heat of the moment when you've got a 150-inch deer at 25 yards, things happen. I want to eliminate as much as I possibly can, and if that means shooting a 29-inch bow instead of a 30 to make sure I'm not going to hit the clothing that I'm wearing, that's what I'm willing to do. Now here's another thing. This is a 29-inch bow, and this is the first season. I used this last bow season. That was the first year that I was shooting 29 inches. Prior, I was at 28 and a half. The reason being is I played a lot of baseball in high school, and at some point in time I did something to the rotator cuff of my throwing arm, and I didn't notice it when I was playing so much. But as I've got a little bit older and maybe don't do the same types of things I used to, I started to get a little bit of an issue holding the bow at full draw. So I could come here and I was fine, but it kept wanting, when I was shooting 29 inches, this was not comfortable to hold very long. Whatever it was in that position, when I was able to bring the bow in another half an inch, that issue went away. So again, I elected to lower my draw length to 28 and a half. And I produced a few videos, and everybody made fun of me because, oh, look at how short that bow is for him. He doesn't know what he's doing. Well, I knew what I was doing. I intentionally made the bow shorter to compensate for whatever was going on my shoulder that seems to have gone away, and I don't have any issue with it anymore. But point of the story here, what I just showed you is the proper way to measure your draw length. And you have to measure your draw length, especially if you're going to buy a used bow, because you're not going to go to a bow shop. You're not going to have someone there to help you, and that system will get you, your exact draw length measurement or very close to it. But just because it says to be one thing doesn't mean you have to be. Mine says 30 inches. I'm not going to shoot 30 inches in bow hunting. I'm going to stick with 29 because I want to make sure my bow arm has a little bit of bend to it to avoid slapping it with the string. And I even went a little bit shorter to compensate for some other things. We'll throw one more thing in before I finish off. My D-loops right here, I don't know how well you can see that. I use a much longer D-loop than most people do. And the reason for that is, it's a very short axle-to-axle bow. And if you've messed around with today's bows that get shorter and shorter, we keep having problems right here. Draw it again. Right here. Right up here at the string angle. This is what pinches the knock and causes all kind of issues. Now, look how big the cams are on this thing, and lots of companies are solving the string angle in really cool and innovative ways, whether it's making the eccentrics on the cams bigger or other systems that are actually opening up that string angle so it's less of a problem. But when it was really a couple years ago, this is something I started doing because I was having all kinds of issues with string pinch. And I found that by adding a longer D-loop, I was giving myself a little bit more cushion, because if I had a really short D-loop with the string pinch heavy, any torque that I put into my wrist on the release was torquing the string and pinching that knock even further. But when I made a longer loop, I had a little bit more play right there, and it seems to have worked out really well. So now I'm able to shoot 29 inches, keep my bow arm bent, but I'm able to comfortably anchor where I normally would just by adding maybe 1/4 to 1/2 an inch to my D-loop. So hopefully that gives you an idea of what the rest of these videos are going to be like. You know, today we just measured our draw length, but now we're going to go right on into setting this bow up from scratch. And I have a lot of different and somewhat unique ideas that maybe your bow tech doesn't do, and maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong, but they've worked for me for a number of years. So now that you know your draw length, we can move on to the next videos and start to set this bow up. If you want to know when the next videos are coming, the easiest way is to hit the subscribe button and subscribe to Outdoor Life's channel, and then you get updates every time we have a new video. So thanks for sticking with me, and when we come back next time, we're going to start setting this thing up and getting ready to shoot.